You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome to Let's Talk Business. My name is Kelly Bolton. Thank you for tuning in as we have the distinct pleasure of hosting our community's foremost leaders, entrepreneurs, and civic heroes. Over the past month, Memphis has experienced great tragedy and pain, and we must continue to fight for our city and reflect on the many amazing gifts we have. One notable treasure is the Memphis Zoo. Consistently named as one of the top zoos in the country, it serves as a thriving tourist destination and a Memphis oasis. With me to share about the exciting developments at the zoo is the new president and CEO, Matt Thompson. So without further ado, join me as I welcome Matt to our show and we learn about the incredible Memphis Zoo. Matt, thank you for joining us, and welcome to the zoo. So tell me, how long have you actually had this role as president of the zoo? Because I know you've been at the zoo for a long time, so I'd like to hear a little bit about your career and how you transitioned into the role of president.
First of all, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. This is exciting.
Well, thank you. I've been in this role for only 3 months now, so it's a brand new role for me. But I've been at the zoo for 27 years now.
Wow.
So a long time. I know the zoo well.
That is fabulous. Yeah. And what other roles have you had at the zoo?
Oh my goodness. So I started, I've been here my whole career. I started when I was 20 years old as a seasonal zookeeper.
Really?
And so, yeah, so truly just doing projects, building fences, anything I could do to be near the animals. That was my goal.
Really?
And yeah, so I fell in love with the zoo, and I was going to school when I started finishing school when I started at the zoo, and originally thought I wanted to be a veterinarian, shifted gears of all things to business. So I wound up with years of animal experience backed by a business degree. So I've always been kind of entrepreneurial and interested in business anyway, but also really interested in animals and conservation. So I ended up being uniquely suited to run a zoo, so here I am.
Well, that is fabulous. And you know, it's rare. I've had my same career for 35 years at the same company, and and you can, and I was actually in the same location for 33 of the years. You can say you've been 27 years in the same location because obviously y'all haven't moved. But I mean, I think that's wonderful because I think people forget how important business is in everything.
Right.
And we have had as a guest on our show a college and career counselor, one for Germantown High School, and we were talking about the importance of post high school education.
Right.
And I think your story is a great one because, yes, you loved animals and you took that love of animals and were willing to build fences, but you got a business degree.
That's right.
And now here you are as president of the zoo, which is just phenomenal. And what is the annual attendance right now at the zoo?
It's just over 1 million, close to 1.1 million visitors a year.
1 million visitors.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And for people that are interested in going to the zoo and go more frequently, is there a way that they can save money with like family packages or a personal, annual pass?
We strongly promote our membership because we do have an annual membership. I think it's by far, if you're at all near the zoo and come, more than once, I strongly recommend our membership. I think it's one of the better deals in town because I think if you come 2.5 times, it pays for itself. It includes parking. There's several different tiers for individuals, couples, families. And we've got something that will work for you if you're going to come more than once. So it's definitely the way to come. And what's nice about coming that way is if you're busy, say you have children or friends or family, you want to come see one thing, you can come and not feel like you have to get your money's worth, so to speak, and see everything.
Right.
You can come, do this, let the kids play on the playground, visit the coffee shop, and then go home. And still feel like you can come back anytime.
That's great. And and you really think it's about for most people, families, that sort of thing, it's about 2.5 times and it's covered.
That's right.
Well, that is great. Well,
Yeah.
And you've got so many like fabulous things. I don't even know
Thank
where to
you.
start because we're talking about like the playground and the coffee shop and
Yeah.
I know people have high school dances and weddings and parties. I mean,
we
it's
do
just
a lot of special events.
I mean,
private
it's
events.
a lot of things. So, what are some of the ways that you guys raise money to maintain the zoo? I know the ticket sales.
That's a very good question. So most of our funding does come from ticket sales. So hearkening back to that, I hate to say the C word, but COVID, that's why it hurt us. When we closed the zoo, that was the majority of our income. But that memberships is a big one, and we're very thankful for our members. We're now pushing 30,000 households. That's not individual people, that's households. So that's a very large number for our metropolitan area. And then of course you mentioned some events. So like, we've got Zoo Boo coming up, which is a perennial favorite.
Oh, yes.
As well as Zoo Lights. So Zoo Boo is the last couple of weekends of October. It's always popular. If the weather's nice, it almost always sells out. And then Zoo Lights is the whole, pretty much from the weekend before Thanksgiving all the way to the end of December, and it's become a very popular thing as well. So, and then our private event businesses, you mentioned some of those, proms and other things, but we have a lot of weddings and a lot of private events after hours at the zoo, and so that's become an important part of our business plan as well, because it's a unique place to have any of those.
Oh,
what a cool backdrop, Teton Trek or Northwest Passage to have a business meeting or a wedding reception. It's kind of a neat thing. So we now have in-house catering and that kind of thing that can take care of a event like that from beginning to end. So it's pretty cool.
That is amazing. Well, how do you prioritize what you do? Because I know there's so many expansions and so much that y'all have done over the years. I think back to the days pictures of me when I was in a stroller at the zoo, and the big thing was the elephants and the lions. I mean, how are you prioritizing?
That's a very good question. So with the Zambezi River Hippo Camp, you may have seen that's our newest exhibit. That was actually the last plan in a 20-year master plan that was developed in the late 80s.
Wow.
And that's significant for several reasons. One is that we were, being at an institution that fully realized a 20-year master plan is really pretty special. Not everywhere gets to do that. I'm familiar with a lot of zoos even, and that's just kind of a thing you dream about and do everything. We did the whole thing.
Wow.
And so an exciting time right now is we have just engaged with and chosen an architect to lead us through our next 10 years to develop a master plan for the next 10 years.
Oh, that is great.
We're just about to start that process, which will take about a year, and you'll see some press about that, and then we'll develop a 10-year master plan, and then we'll be back in the press talking about that. But that's
Wonderful.
how we plan for the future, among other things. There are business decisions, there's spur of the moment decisions, but you have to have some organized long-range planning, and that's what we're doing.
I'm impressed, and I'm going to come back with a question about that 10-year plan here in a minute.
All right.
A short commercial break, so please stick around.
Germantown High School has a strong love for choral music, and it's exciting to see how students really develop their skills every single day in the classroom.
Singing is different from everything else because it gives me a way to express myself in ways that other people don't understand sometimes.
He come from the glory. He come down.
Athletics are great, but at some point your body wears out, but you can do music for the rest of your life. Germantown High School currently has 4 choir ensembles. We have an a cappella ensemble, and it's a pop a cappella group. We have chorale, which is an SATB group comprised of about 25 singers, grades 9 through 12. We have a women's chorus, which is predominantly made up of freshmen and a few sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And then we have our chamber choir, which is made up of about 16 singers.
Ready and go!
It allows students to be both leaders and followers all at the same time, and it allows students to be able to develop more than just their music skills, but also their abilities to work together and depend upon one another.
You know, one person may sing the wrong note, but we can all just, you know, help that person. Even though it may be bringing down the choir in that moment, you know, just my choir and chorale, or either all choirs together.
Music is definitely something I do want to continue to have in my life because I've just grown so much love for it.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit ghskappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Business. If you're just tuning in, I'm Kelly Bolton, and today we've had the distinct pleasure of talking with our guest today, Mr. Matt Thompson. He's CEO and president of the Memphis Zoo. We're learning about the exciting events and developments at this amazing place. So thank you for joining us. Before we took a break, we were talking about the 10-year plan.
Right.
Is there a sneak peek that you can give us?
Well, you can go to the Memphis Zoo and kind of see the new stuff and the old stuff. And as you can imagine, redeveloping exhibits like that is expensive, right? And so, so all of these different exhibits that we've developed over the last 30 years, China, Northwest Passage, Teton Track, Primate Canyon, Cat Country, I mean, those total about $120 million. You know, that's a lot. Wow. And in today's money, it would be more, you know. So we've been incredibly blessed with good funding, also vision. But yeah, as we move forward, you can see that most of the developments happened on the east side of our campus. So you come in, you kind of go right. So there's the African area on that side of the zoo that still needs some work. That's where elephants, giraffe, rhino are. And then there's the whole west side of the zoo. So you think about the aquarium, the birdhouse, the herpetarium, and those are all areas that are they're just outdated. The round barn.
Right.
So those are the areas we're going to be focusing on for the master plan.
Well, that's exciting. And you know, what you said I think is so true, which takes you kind of back to this business degree with the zoo. I mean, a lot of times, and I've served on boards or been involved in boards, and everybody talks about all the things they want to do, and we have a plan. And then the next board meeting, you're talking about the plan that you talked about before. And then 5 years from now, you're still just recapping. And you think, you know, we got to stop talking and we got to start doing. And I love what you said. You had a 20-year plan and you executed on it. And that's easier said than done. Because it is so easy to derail the train. I mean, COVID hits, things like that hit. And so the fact that you've been able to execute, I think, is phenomenal. I'd love to talk about how you go about procuring animals. I have a friend who used to fly a plane for FedEx. And he explained to me at one point in time how he was flying some pretty crazy things across the country. And said, do you just sit there and hope it doesn't get loose? So I'd love to know how you get them. I mean, how you actually procure the animal, and then how do you actually get them to the zoo from their location? It's
a great question. So we get that question a lot regarding procurement. And so, you know, in the old days, you would buy animals, and you know, they were caught out of the wild. Sometimes they were bought between zoos, and that's much like many aspects of the zoo world. That's changed. You know, it's not, you know, animals in zoos are, you know, not just there for people's enjoyment. You know, these are, many of them are endangered species. Unfortunately, that's increasing, the number that are endangered species, and so the populations have to be carefully managed. One day, those could be the only representations of those populations. You know, they might not be in the wild, and that's crazy to think about. But
we've seen the dinosaurs.
It could be true, and so those populations need to be managed really well, and I mean from a genetic standpoint. So to directly answer your question, most of the animal transfers that you see and hear about are decisions based on genetic matches at other zoos. So,
very interesting.
So all of those species are managed by a group of people that are looking out for the animal's best interest, and so and we do a lot of that. Other zoos do it, And so we'll get a recommendation, say orangutans, that, you know, it looks like your male would be better matched, and now that he's reproduced a couple times, would be better matched with a female at the Oklahoma City Zoo. And so we don't have to take that recommendation, but we almost always do, because it's best for the population. And so we'll make that move. We'll send our male there, and then we'll receive another male from, say, the North Carolina Zoo. And then the way that works, and the only money that's exchanged is just paying for transport.
Okay.
And so the way that works is that we'll come to an agreement with, say, both zoos that we might own every other offspring or something like that.
Right.
And so that you know makes sure that we're going to stay in the orangutan business, so to speak.
Right.
And really everybody does. And so everyone benefits from that situation. So as a result, when you come to the Memphis Zoo, you won't know it, but you will see animals that are owned by other zoos. And then we've got animals that are owned by
So they're
then
still
we've got
owned,
animals,
or they?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes
okay,
they're
so you
loaned.
can
A lot of
actually
times they're
own it,
loaned.
right?
So we have animals all over the United States that we still own. So it's like a giant cooperative. So the accredited zoos own each other's animals all over the U.S. That's kind of how it's done. Very rarely is any money exchange, and when it is, like I said, it's usually for transport. And there are people that just transport animals like that. So either on the ground, if it's the big stuff like the rhinos and elephants and giraffe, and then we use the air via FedEx, which we're very fortunate to have them here. They've helped us fly so many big things. They're wonderful because their aircraft are climate controlled.
That was my
so,
understanding in talking to this pilot, that he had flown a climate controlled, I want to say it was a Lion.
It could be. We've flown a lot with polar bears, and you know, I mean, that when you transport animals, temperature is very, very important, and so they can dial in the exact temperature you want, and it's really a wonderful thing.
That is great to have that partnership.
So that's kind of the short answer, but it's a complicated thing, but it happens all the time.
That's very interesting, and we're lucky that we have an organization like FedEx that is here, that is pro-Memphis and willing to help and support the things you do.
Yes, and they're a wonderful partner for the zoo
as
well.
That is fabulous, and you shared with me some things that I didn't know. My mind is math and business and finance, and it's got me to thinking. I've got a few questions I'm going to ask you.
All right.
We're going to pause for another short commercial break, so please don't go away, and we're going to learn more how you can get involved with the Memphis Zoo.
The orchestra program at Germantown High School is now in its 7th year.
An orchestra, I guess, physically is composed of a lot of different people. Sometimes you'll have chamber orchestras that are maybe only 4 people, and then other times you'll have a 100-piece orchestra. But ours is kind of an in-between. It's maybe like 20 or so, I'd say. But it still takes every player to understand how to perform a piece.
We now have 2 groups, 2 distinct classes, one of an intermediate level and one that's quite advanced, and they play music that is at the level of almost any other high school in the area.
I think Germantown High School's arts program wouldn't be the same without the orchestra, because without it we lose a more classical sound. We lose that kind of warm wooden sound. And not only that, but we lose some fun people that are in the orchestra program.
They're practicing, they're listening to each other, they're cooperating, they're all working toward a similar goal.
It's very fun and exciting, especially when playing in concerts. That level of competition almost, it's just invigorating.
They're able to enhance their own love for playing, for ensemble, for performing. So I believe that certainly if they stick with it, they will really love what they're doing.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit GHSKappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Business. So glad you could join us. Today we've had the pleasure of speaking with Matt Thompson, CEO and President of the Memphis Zoo. And we're excited to learn more about what lies ahead for the zoo and how you can be a part of it. Matt, I want to ask you a little bit more about the science behind this, because I'm a business finance geek. You know, I deal with numbers, and, you know, to me, admittedly, the zoo is pretty, and it's a show for me. You know, I get to go and see these things. But I know that there's people back there feeding, you know, the baby orangutans, and there's, you know, and I see some things happening, but what you touched on earlier, I think, is really important for our viewers, is we just get to have the benefit of viewing these beautiful animals, but there's a science and a reason behind what you're doing, not just to put an animal that should be running in the wild out there for humans to view. That's not all there is. We just get the benefit of what you're doing. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting you bring that up, because one of the things that I really want to work on, that's one of my priorities coming into this role, is really leaning into our research and conservation mission, part of what we do. And we always have. We do some incredible conservation work, but a lot of it happens behind the scenes and people don't know it's happening.
Well, you're right. Exactly.
And so you walk past these beautiful animals, or you walk and you don't realize kind of what purpose they are serving, or exactly what's going on. So one of the first things I did was to talk to the crew about using our social media, which has quite the reach, a little more to tell those stories. So yes, we want the entertainment value. Yes, we want to see the baby animals. That's not going to go away, but we have to interweave, you know, some of the science that is going on at the zoo, because it's incredible. One, just very quick example is and people don't always get super excited about it because it's snakes and frogs, but
that's okay.
It's two of my favorite projects that we do. I mean, we work on those to giant pandas and gorillas and everything, and elephants and everything in between. But the frogs, is the Mississippi gopher frog and the Louisiana pine snake, both extremely rare. The snake is the rarest snake in North America. The frog its population was down to one pond, literally. It's called Glenn's Pond in Mississippi.
Really?
And these were identified years ago.
Where's Glenn's Pond in Mississippi?
I don't know the exact location,
but in the Delta?
But that's right.
Okay.
And so our conservation research team identified these animals and worked to develop ways to reproduce these animals in captivity, which was previously not figured out. And so anyway, I'm skipping over a lot of very detailed steps, but long story short, these animals were reproduced in captivity, and then we worked with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the various state agencies, all of these different folks to release these animals back to the wild.
And the zoo is doing all of this.
And literally repopulate the wild. And now we've confirmed through DNA that the animals that we reproduced and released back to the wild are now reproducing.
See, that is phenomenal. And I mean, me being a layman to the zoo and the zoo story and that sort of thing, that's intriguing to me, because I'm like probably many people, a frog and a snake is not, when I was a kid, I picked up the little baby frogs and wanted to keep them and realized it would, but now if I see a frog, I might run from it. A snake, I'm definitely running. but to think that there's more than just me looking at the frog or the snake in the exhibit, that you have kept an animal from extinction, and then the next step past that is, what do those frogs provide our world? Like, are they a food source for somebody else? Are they keeping ponds? I mean, I don't know enough about the science of animals, so I'm really going to a place I shouldn't go. But those are someplace in the world of protecting our planet that are important.
Well,
I'm sure.
very quickly. So the snake, for example, had gone almost extinct because there was some large-scale habitat disturbance and destruction that had killed off their food supply, and so the snakes had had died as a result, and died off, and were in danger of going completely extinct. So the problem was identified, new habitat was identified that they could populate. They were released into it, and they've done well and are now reproducing. So everyone, including Fish and Wildlife, and we all learned something from this. And to your point,
and then I'm sure the snakes have value to other things.
That's right. But to your point, they're part of a important part of a complete ecosystem. Right. So it wasn't just the snakes, or their numbers are getting low. No, their food supply had dwindled as a result of the snakes getting low, and who knows what else would have been affected by that.
Right.
So when you hear about the circle of life and the complete and the different roles that things play within, I mean, it's a real thing.
That is really interesting. I mean, I know personally, I would be all for as much as you could do for educational components of that, because to me that's just very intriguing, and that makes the snake a little more exciting to me when you tell me that there's more to it besides the snake. A lot of people say, oh, who cares about saving the snakes? Right. So, one thing I just wanted to thank you. I mean, our show could be filming, we're filming now, and our show could be shown at any time throughout the next year or even beyond that. But we had some events in our city recently as of filming the show that have been horrible and have been gut-wrenching for the city. And I personally just want to thank you for you opening the doors to the zoo to provide some joy and happiness. I think that was
saying that. I mean, what a terrible day that was. And so everyone, we got the team together and was, I mean, no one knows what to do in a situation like that. And it's like, what can we do? We really want to, we're such a, community organization, and people tend to come to us. And a lot of people come to the zoo to just kind of unwind and reflect and walk around.
Right.
And so kind of knowing that, we're like, you know what, we should really open our doors and just let everyone in. And again, just kind of not knowing what to do, but we want to do something for the community and not knowing if it would be effective. And people were so grateful. We stopped our cashiers and were like, "Thank you for doing this," or me, or whoever they saw. We're like, "This really, I haven't been to the zoo in years, and this, I needed this." And so, it was. I'm very thankful we were able to do it. But I was also thankful for our team and for the response of people kind of coming together. It was a wonderful, diverse crowd that came together to just kind of hang out together. It was great.
Well, I will tell you personally, I thank you. I thank you for what you're doing for our community. I thank you for the kindness that y'all showed, and congratulations on your new position.
Thank you.
I've learned a lot, and I hope we'll meet again soon.
Very good. Thank you for having me.
I'd like to thank Mr. Matt Thompson with the Memphis Zoo for being with us today. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed our discussion, and I hope you will join us again next month on Let's Talk Business. You can get more information on the show by checking out our website at GHS-TV.org, where we're streaming live 24 hours a day. You can also check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I hope you've enjoyed our discussion, and I hope you will join us again next month on Let's Talk Business. So now